Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast. I'm Peter Raybar.
And I'm Laura Brownstein. And we are back to talk about how current events, pop culture, everything going on is affecting the rules and norms and culture of our lives at work. Um, Peter is the top employment lawyer. I have run comms at lots of big organizations and spent a lot of time looking at workplace power dynamics. So I've got workplace stuff and comms crisis part. Peter is the lawyer.
We have a special guest joining us today.
Who?
We have a new friend of
Friend of
the
the
pod. Her name is Rose,
Rose! My
and
goodness!
she's a foster puppy available through the Hearts and Bones Rescue.
What kind is she?
She's the kind who loves employment law.
So have you had any foster fails where
Yes.
like it starts as a foster and then you're celebrating its 10th birthday soon?
No, that's not how I would define a foster fail. I would
A
define a
foster fail
foster
is when you end
fail
up
as
adopting instead of giving it to someone else.
no. Well, in my house, I would define it as a foster who just starts destroying stuff and going crazy. So we've had one of those, but we've also had 17 or 18 successes.
That's so great that you guys do that. Does the whole family get involved?
Yeah, and I anticipate that Rose here with her big ears will be another success.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's go. Rose wants to know
So,
what we're going to talk about today.
okay, one of the things that I have been most interested in is the Terry Moran firing. Terry Moran, top journalist at ABC for more than 2 decades, I believe, and he did a late night, not drunk, according to him,
Not drunk.
tweet that got him fired within a week. What?
By the way, not
What?
drunk doesn't mean you didn't have a drink before you sent it. Just means you weren't drunk.
Or a gummy or 4.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to look at this story, which is definitely very interesting. I mean, obviously Terry Moran had enough, and
Do you think he knew what he was doing? Do you think he was just like,
absolutely.
I'm out and I'm going out in a blaze of fucking glory?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that someone of the stature of Terry Moran with agents and lawyers and advisors who's very well versed in politics and media matters doesn't know what's going to happen when he sends out that message. And the reality is for media personalities, they have very strict contracts that regulate what they can and can't say on social media or
Journalists
other media
in general,
channels.
yeah.
Yeah, so they have different rules
I mean, when
that
I was
apply
an
to
editor
them.
at Cosmo, we had rules about what we could write about politically.
Yes,
And so
absolutely.
it's any kind of journalist who's a real journalist should have those.
Absolutely.
He knew
Absolutely.
what he was doing.
Yeah, so he knew what he was doing and he was fed
You think
up
he
and
thought he would just get suspended?
not with the depths that he went to, no way. And against one of the key architects of what's going on with this administration and not someone who seems to take criticism well either. So he knew what was going to happen, and sure there was probably some back and forth at the contract table apparently. There's also a lot of turmoil inside of
Yeah.
ABC News that's
Kind
been
of like
going on for a
suicide
while.
by cop. Like, you're just like, all right, I'm like going to light the match.
I don't know if
And
it's suicide. I would say it's more like pulling the ripcord now.
yeah, but you're pulling the ripcord in a way, but you're not actually just quitting. You're just doing something that will make them fire you.
But what a great way to start something new with a blast of controversy.
That is
And
true. I mean, I just subscribed to his Substack. Like,
there you go. Worked on
yeah,
you.
totally. Did
Yeah.
you?
No. But it was a great way to advertise his new Substack and
Right. So
also a
you
great
think
way,
this
great
whole
message.
thing was like a brilliant strategy to be like, well, after Trump was kind of a dick to me during that one-on-one interview, I'm thinking it's time for me to do something else. I'm getting a little attention from that. Let me play off that and go out big.
Exactly. So best of luck to him on the Substack.
Yeah.
And I would just say to executives and other workers, you should really be aware of what's in your contracts and what rules are in your company's
Are
media
these kinds of
policies.
rules being persecuted more than, or prosecuted, I'm sorry, more than they were before, would you say?
It's hard to say that. Certainly, it would be handled on a case by case basis.
I guess what I mean is, are people more likely to get spanked when they're criticizing this administration than they might have in previous administrations?
It's certainly possible. I don't have any evidence to support that, but it's certainly possible given what the attention, if your comment causes added attention to your company from the administration, I'm sure that's a huge headache for
Yeah. I mean,
any
this
company.
administration is less open to criticism and mockery than previous administrations. How many different media companies do they have lawsuits with at the moment?
Yeah, I think everyone pretty
Yeah.
much.
I mean, insane.
And that's a very nice way of you to put it. They're less, they're more sensitive or less tolerant of whatever it is. It's true.
Yes. Side note, this wasn't one of the things we talked about. And you know what? I seldom have moments where I'm like, I feel you with Trump. But when he pieced out of the G7 summit because uh-oh, Iran. He was all of us when you use an excuse to get out of a meeting you don't want to be in. Like the dude was sitting there in that meeting, looking at his fucking phone, being like, how the fuck am I going to stay awake for this whole thing? I don't know what these people are talking about. What am I doing here? I don't like other people. And then he sees this on the news. He's like, this'll work. Totally getting out of the rest of this bullshit. I gotta go. They need me. I felt that.
I'm glad that was your takeaway. I mean, maybe it was because he just dropped the whole treaty or agreement he signed with the UK and was totally embarrassed, but who knows? It
Yes.
could be anything with him.
Yes.
I doubt it was to go home and do work, to be honest.
Like I felt that. That like, get me out of here.
Yeah. See how fair we could be.
See? Okay. Can you imagine if you plan your whole life for finally you're going to Paris the first time you've planned this? The average American family doesn't just jet to Paris for like a random weekend. It's like a planned vacation, probably a year of planning. You get there and you can't go to the Louvre because the workers are on strike. My goodness. I feel so bad for people that this affected. B, good for those workers because we're going to start seeing this in a lot of our American tourist attractions that had state funding or federal funding before that no longer do. And we're going to start seeing this kind of understaffed, overwhelmed, mini explosions. What say you?
Well,
A lot there.
I would have advised anyone who was traveling to Paris to listen to our podcast from last week before they made their final plans, because if they did, they would have been aware of our prediction of the rise of workplace activism. And here we go. We have it.
Whoa, Peter, you're right.
That's right.
Holy, look at you with the predictions.
Yeah. And look, it's not a local prediction. People feel and hear stories worldwide. And if you've been to Europe over the summer, you know how busy and crazy it gets.
It's not even like the heat. It's June. My goodness.
Right. Yeah. It's not even August. And in Europe, they are much more prone to this. Rail strikes, worker strikes. I mean, it's something that happens all the time. I think anyone who's traveled to Europe has a story about how some strike occurring during a tourist season or an event caused an issue for them. And that's just there's a very basic reason why that happens. It's called leverage. And in any negotiation, you want to have leverage, and workers using the tourist season to get additional benefits or improvements to their working conditions is not an unusual concept in Europe, where labor unions and collective action are much more common than they are in the US. But it's something that US companies should be thinking about too, because workers see this, they learn from this. They also saw, again, as I said last week, they saw the protests happening all across the country, millions of people out on the streets.
Yeah, the No Kings protest numbers, like the crowds they got as compared to
The
the
parade.
military history.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and so they see that, and the takeaway is, well, if I want to get something, I need to raise my voice to get it, as we discussed last week. So
But
no
there's
surprise.
also the piece of the catalyst that there are so many American institutions that are about to be understaffed when the
That's
summer
right.
tourist season hits. Like national parks, still hurting from the Doge cuts. I read an article in Reuters that said the scientists at some national park were being called on to do trash duty in addition to their actual science work.
Right.
They're
It's not
almost
just
good at that.
And it's not just federal institutions. I mean, one sector that's taking a big hit from this administration is nonprofits. And nonprofits, most museums are nonprofits. They're taking big hits and they're forced to do layoffs because they've lost funding without any warning and without any alternative funding sources. So it's something you should be prepared for always. I feel bad for those people in Paris who are planning to visit the Louvre, but guess what? My favorite museum in the Paris is the Musée d'Orsay. So just go there and have a great time.
Same. What's your favorite in London?
The Tate,
Victoria and
modern.
Albert for me. That's my favorite museum anywhere, actually. But
Yeah.
we digress.
Yes. Well, that's fine. People are okay with it. We could digress when we want to.
Do people like it?
People like digression.
You know who does not seem like my kind of guy? I got to be honest, Pete Hegseth.
Wow, we could go a lot of different directions with that one.
I mean, he does not seem like my kind of hang, I've got to say. You sent me that story in New York Magazine, which does such good political reporting.
It's called the deep dive. Deep dive.
Yeah. He fired his best friend with had someone else fire his best friend?
Yeah, while he was eating in the cafeteria or something. But we've read a lot of stories about Pete Hegseth. I mean, and some of them are really funny and some of them are really disturbing. The funny ones I would say are about his suits, and there's some analysts on Twitter have really done a deep dive on his suits, and they're pretty funny. But this
What,
one,
can
I
you,
mean,
chart the level of national security by his
just
suit?
how tacky they are,
Okay.
with the little
It's
details.
not like when he wears crazier suits, we are in more danger as a species.
I mean, we're definitely in danger with him in command because, well, it seems like it because he's got a lot of vacancies on his staff and seems to be preoccupied with at least according to this article with items regarding his image and how he's
And
regarded.
workout.
Right. And so we're not going to get into the details of him or what he's doing or whether we agree with him politically or not. But one takeaway I thought was really interesting from this article, which did give some details on how he fired some key staff members who happened to be his friends, including his chief of staff, was how it was done was
It talks
particularly.
about 2 different chiefs of staff.
Yeah,
right?
it was particularly cold, particularly awful. Something it played out and they weren't just fired, they were humiliated and shamed and attacked after they left. And now, shocker of all shockers, he can't find a chief of staff candidate to hire. And if you think about this, this is a super high profile job
Yeah.
that if you work in
I mean, if you're the
Washington, you
chief
would
of
want.
staff at the Department of Defense, you get a job for a year. You write your own ticket at any defense
Right,
contractor.
exactly.
Yeah.
But no one wants it. And part of the reason is because of how they saw the prior people being treated on the way out. And that's a good reminder for executives. You have to treat, and it's something I say all the time, you have to treat people as well on the way out as you do on the way in, because everybody's watching. All your employees are watching. Future candidates are watching. In this case, the media is watching. And so I thought it was a good illustration of that concept.
What do you think the worst thing, what thing that he did made you the most
There's so many things from, I generally do not like marching people out of offices unless there's a real threat. I also don't like
if somebody from Cosmo was going to Glamour. It was like, ma'am, you're going to have to go.
Yeah, or if you discovered someone was stealing something or there were physical threats or something like that, or that someone gets violent in a termination meeting. But more than anything, I don't like the fact that, the boss here, Pete Hegseth, could not even meet in person to communicate the news to the person who worked for him, who happened to be his friend of many years. I think that's pretty lame.
Yeah. I just showed someone Working Girl for the first time. Have you seen Working Girl?
Yes.
Do you agree it's one of the greatest movies, certainly of the 80s, for me, of all time? Mike Nichols.
Yeah, I mean, it's an iconic film, of course.
Iconic. And Sigourney Weaver has a line in it where she says, today's junior prick, tomorrow's senior partner. And that is a very Nichols movie line way of saying, the people you know on your way up, you'll also know on your way down.
Yeah.
And be nice to everybody.
Be nice.
Spent many years, as you know, as a entertainment editor and did lots of celebrity photo shoots. And the way we judged who was a nice celebrity was not how they treated me or the photographer, the fashion director. It was how they treated the fashion director's assistant, who's often lacing up their shoes. And she was like our little sister, all of our little sister. And the celebrities that would be nice to the grown-ups and then be basically stepping on her as she was tying their shoes. We were not a nice girl. But the ones who were
I think that's a great way to.
That's a nice girl. Yeah.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that assessment of or a method of assessment.
Yes. All right. So we have a very special write-in question.
Yeah, we one of our viewers has a question, and it's actually a situation I've dealt with before, but it's a very timely and funny.
Who dealt with it?
Yeah, I have dealt with it. But the question was, and for those who are fans, not me.
I have never seen this show, and I frequently feel left out, never having seen it. Because I
Well,
frequently am like, "Who now? What?"
the question is about Love Island, which is not a show. I've actually watched it once because my daughter loves it, but I don't watch it regularly. The question is
Being a good parent.
if I'm a contestant on Love Island, do I have to quit my job? And that's a really interesting question. One I've dealt with before. I've worked with some people who have gotten
Depends on what your job is, right?
roles on reality shows, but also have daytime jobs, and
I mean, lots of people in magazine land.
it really is job dependent. I mean, some jobs, and it's also show dependent. So if you're a chef and you're on Top Chef, you're probably
That
going to go
seems fun.
back to your
Yeah.
job unless you win and want to start your own empire. But if you're
Hey,
going
you're
on
on
a
the
show,
chief of staff in the Department of Defense.
right,
Maybe don't go on Love Island.
right. So if you have a serious office job and then all of a sudden you're popping up on Love Island, you're probably not going back to that job. But to the extent that people have other jobs,
But let's play it through. Like, if you get an offer to do something extracurricular that is about building your brand, not your company's brand, which happens a lot these days, how should you approach it?
you're going to have to make a real assessment on, what the prospects are for this opportunity. And it's really a bet on yourself.
Walk me through how you notify or get permission from the people you have responsibilities to.
It's a little tricky because if you're on a show like Love Island or a similar show, the contract you're going to have to sign has extensive confidentiality provisions within it. So you're going to be limited on what you could even say
Are they
to
not allowed to
you.
say they're on a show?
Well, for instance, Love Island, you can't tell anyone that you're actually going to appear on it until the show airs.
Really? Why?
So you'll have to be very careful about what's in your contract and what you can or can't disclose. Now, you could certainly have a talk with your boss and say, I'm going to be on a TV show that's on X network, and can I still work here? And their answer is probably going to be no. If you're in the entertainment industry, it's definitely going to be no because there's usually some sort of conflict or non-compete issue.
But if you're a beauty editor and you get asked to be on a TV show, the editor is probably going to be like,
Maybe they're definitely going to
great
ask for more.
opportunity.
They're definitely going to ask for more details. So you're going to have to go back to the production company and ask, well, what can I reveal about this show in trying to get permission from my current boss to appear on it? And so there's going to be a back and forth, but it's going to be a careful discussion and certainly one you should have before you appear on air. Absolutely.
Let's play out. This has happened to me a couple times. You get out, you have a job, some tech company, doing whatever, and you get asked to speak on a panel at something. Do you always recommend asking permission, or unless it's clearly spelled out that you have to, should you not need to?
Now, this is one I've dealt with a lot.
I know.
And I will
I
say,
know.
yes, ask for permission always.
Really? You don't, this
Yes.
isn't like, I'll ask for forgiveness.
Really, you have to be really careful. A lot of bosses really hate this. Subordinates appearing on panels without notice, and then some third party in the industry pings them and says, "Hey, does this person work for you?" And then they're finding
Nightmare.
out about it from someone
Nightmare.
else. That's the worst
I've been in
position.
both of those positions. Both are bad.
Right. Especially if you work for someone who's, narcissist. You don't want them finding out that way.
Yeah. I mean, no one was allowed to do things when we were at WeWork. The Newmans did not really enjoy other voices being out there. And it was like, I have something at my school. They would be like, can you not? I mean, it was, yeah.
Some bosses have a real sensitivity. So
And I
I
think
always
public
advise
companies having strict guardrails. You have to if it's a public company. But I don't know. I also think a good boss um, lets their team take wins, especially when they won't cost them.
yes, but I'll tell you what their bosses are afraid of, which is their employees having visibility in the industry, someone seeing them on a panel and being like, hey, they're really great. I'm going to go hire them. And then they lose a key member of their panel. That's what they're concerned about. The Other side of that is if you're up and coming, you need to appear on these panels
You gotta
to
hustle.
build your skill set and build your network and build your visibility. So it's a real push and pull. Ultimately, I always say if you're a good boss and create a good environment for your employees and show that you care about their careers just as much as you care about yours, even if they're encountered with an offer from someone who saw them on a panel, they're
Back
going
to
to
the
choose to
headset
stay.
thing. Be nice to people as they're coming
Be
up.
nice to people. Have some
Yeah,
respect. Yeah. Have
yeah.
some trust.
And just have some, as you say, help the next generation grow into better leaders. We are not going to benefit by not having strong leaders coming after us. So, as Kamala Harris's mother, you said to her, you might be the first, but don't be the last. And I always like that.
Very
Yeah.
wise.
Yes, wise. So, one of the interesting wrinkles that I so didn't see coming, I don't know why, is the plight of white people is getting a lot of attention right now.
White,
Um,
white people.
we are like
Is that
grabbing babies out of Latina mothers' arms, and we are welcoming Afrikaner farmers to the US because they're being persecuted. Okay. And at the Supreme Court, a white straight woman sued because she thought she was being discriminated against and won. What is that? What in all creation is up
well, to be clear, she didn't win the case.
here? Okay.
What the case was about was the standard used in cases where a reverse discrimination is being alleged. So someone who's from a non-minority group is alleging that they were discriminated against. And in this particular case, it was a white woman alleging that a pair of gay candidates got jobs that she should have received and a promotion she should have received. And some circuits in the country, not a majority, but some judicial circuits in the country had a standard that said if you were alleging reverse discrimination, you had this extra level of burden that you had to
Okay.
prove that regular discrimination cases didn't have that burden. And frankly, it's not an issue I've ever dealt with because I practice here in New York and New York doesn't have that burden on reverse discrimination lawsuits.
Have you ever been part of a reverse discrimination lawsuit?
Nothing that's ever made it to the lawsuit stage, but yes, I have been involved in cases. It does happen from time to time. There's definitely not, even now, there's definitely not a flood of cases going
Yeah.
forward
Well, not New
on
York,
this.
but
But anyway, the Supreme Court said there's nothing in the law that says this additional burden should exist. And so it was a unanimous decision. They struck it down. And that's that. I don't think it's going to change much, frankly.
thing is, I feel, and you can tell me if this is a feeling or a truth, that they're making it harder and harder for people to prove discrimination in other situations. And this is the one situation they're making it easier. No?
Well, they're just bringing it back to the same standard. So it's not making it easier than other cases. It's just
But
holding it
they've
to the same
removed
standard.
some of the laws that you could sue for discrimination under, haven't they?
No, no. This is strictly about the standard the court is using.
Not this case. A few months ago, there was something
But you're talking
that,
about the executive orders.
yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right.
So
Now,
he's
yes.
making executive orders that are making it harder for uh, typically discriminated against minority groups, making it harder for them to have a case, but he's making it easier for the reverse discrimination cases, right?
Well, I mean, that is the goal. And I think the administration would, if they could, just repeal all the anti-discrimination laws. Instead, what they've done is, which is what you were referring to, is they've eliminated a lot of the regulations that created an environment to have equal opportunity for government contractors and others in the government. Executive orders that were signed in the fees that got repealed. These were not things that were executive orders that were signed in the last 5 years. These were long-standing orders, and there were also obviously the affirmative action cases against Harvard and others, the colleges, several years ago, all part of the same effort to really water down the effectiveness of our anti-discrimination laws, which are so important because there's still real problems in the workplace today in terms of equity and representation. They're very real problems. I don't care what some of the people in the
Totally.
administration say.
Okay. Do you have some heroes and zeros?
I absolutely do. I
What do
will
you got?
continue to follow your directive to keep these light. My hero for this week is Formula One racing, and I say this for a number of reasons. First, I just went to the race in Montreal this weekend, and it was my first race. I'm a huge fan, but my first race in person. It was awesome.
That's so fun. Did
Yeah,
you eat
and
so well in Montreal? Was the food so good?
yeah, Montreal is amazing.
It is.
Amazing city. But it's a great sport. It's global. It's the fan base is incredibly
Admit
diverse.
I don't get the joy of watching cars drive around in a circle, and I know that that's just me.
Well, it's more like watching rocket ships zoom by you. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you've never felt anything like it in your life. But the whole experience is really amazing and family oriented and fun. And the movie's coming out. It premiered last night in New York.
Is this different than the Tom Cruise classic Days of Thunder?
Different cars,
But similar,
different
maybe?
rules. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The movie's supposed to be great, by the way.
Listen, I love when Brad Pitt actually lets himself be hot in a movie. That is just
So do
good,
I. So do I.
good time.
But I was a little upset. All the drivers came from Montreal to New York. They didn't invite me on their private jet to come see it. I had to go
You gotta
commercial.
step up your game, buddy. Did you
Yeah,
tell them who
it's a
you are
bummer.
and what you host?
It was a bummer, but the movie's supposed to be awesome. So you're going to be hearing a lot about Formula One in the next couple of weeks. But just remember, we were on it first.
What's your
And
zero?
then my zero is obviously this parade, which was just such a joke.
Obviously,
And
oh, the parade.
yeah. And a massive inconvenience to anyone who lives, works, or was planning to visit Washington, D.C. I have family who live there. Roads shut down, subway stops shut down, promise of tourists that never came to fruition. And for local businesses, local people couldn't even go out and eat and do things. And so I'm sure we'll hear stories in the next few days or weeks about how much money they lost to the extent they are brave enough to talk about it. But just a real loss across the board. So that's my zero.
Okay. I'm gonna The World is Dark. So my hero is things that you can just enjoy for a minute. And Ginny and Georgia on Netflix is one of the cutest shows ever. I binged it on Sunday and highly recommend it.
One day
It's
binge.
like a couple other days, but like much of the
How
season.
many episodes?
12. I watched 6 on Sunday. It was a great day. So, my hero is anything you do to take care of yourself that is fun and nice, like going to F1 or just spending a delicious day on the couch with your cat, watching a movie, watching a TV show, and reading romance novels. My
Sounds great to me.
zero is I just saw that Bernie Sanders endorsed Mamdani for mayor. And I just wanna be like, "Man, go away. This is absurd." Mamdani, sorry, I know Cuomo said it wrong, I'm not trying to say it wrong. He is 33 years old, he has accomplished nothing.
Yeah.
He has all these ideas that he has no idea how to pay for. He is the parody of why they hate us, really. And the fact that Bernie Sanders is endorsing him, also not real nice about Israel and the Jews, Zoran Mamdani.
Not real nice. I
Not real
mean,
nice.
that's
Bernie
like an
Sanders,
understatement of the year.
what are you doing? Stay in Vermont. Mess it up there. We don't need you here. So
Yeah, I mean, people are having a real problem choosing someone to root for in this race of just filled with bad
I know.
candidates.
But
But
Keith Powers for Manhattan Borough President, which you can't vote for. And obviously, when my friend does win, the first thing I intend to, as a citizen, bring before him is that once the washer goes by on alternate sides of the street parking days, you should be able to leave the car. You are in the car so the street can get cleaned. There has to be a system.
that's your big issue.
They're in. Yes, this is my quality of life issue. Like,
Okay.
if you're in one of those, you have to sit for an hour and a half, and the sweeper comes in the first 15 minutes, and then you're like, I am sitting here for an hour and 15 minutes for nothing. Sorry. All right, those were maybe 2 zeros.
Yeah.
Mm,
Double zero.
double zero, double zero. Yeah. Okay, this was fun. Have a good week, too.
Yes. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching. Another Across the Bar. Let us know if you have any questions. As always, thank you so much, Sadie Raybar, for both helping with production and submitting good questions this week. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.